I and the concubine gave birth on the same day. The wet nurse of the concubine secretly swapped my child. I made no fuss, only quietly switched them back. I taught my own daughter how to manage household affairs, dignified, independent. Meanwhile, the concubine taught her own daughter to sing, dance, with flirtatious glances. I always thought I treated my daughter well enough. Surely she would understand my sincerity. But when the concubine's daughter became the crown prince's secondary consort, she suddenly went mad and pushed me into the lake to drown. She said, "No matter how much hardship I've endured, I can never compare to my younger sister. Even living well, I'll never match her. I hate you." If only the concubine were my real mother. I was reborn, returning to the moment when the wet nurse was stealthily swapping the newborns. This time I closed my eyes, pretending to know nothing. If you wanted a mother like her so much, then so be it, may you get your wish. I was reborn on the very day I gave birth. Outside the window, autumn rain dripped softly. Inside the birthing chamber, the air was thick with the scent of blood, humid and lingering. Thunghan, the chief maid, carefully adjusted my blanket, then quietly carried the dirty linens outside. Next to me, on the small bed, lay my daughter, Lian Jiqing. She was so tiny, wrapped in swaddling clothes, her eyes still unopened. Her face was crimson, her hair sparse, her features all scrunched up. Truthfully, she wasn't much to look at. Yet in my past life, I found her so obedient, she melted my heart, I wanted to cradle her in my hands at all times. Even the moon in the sky, I wished I could pluck down for her. As she grew, I constantly feared I would not be a good mother, always consulting other madams on how to raise daughters. I taught her justice, to distinguish good from evil, right from wrong. I taught her music, calligraphy, poetry, literature, hoping to shape her character and bearing. I also taught her to manage household affairs, to be dignified and independent. I imagined countless endings for her, but never felt any were perfect, so I let her choose her own future. Even so, I never forced her. I didn't insist she master the zither or excel at chess or be flawless in etiquette. Jiqing liked reading, so I asked my husband to personally request the retired grand preceptor to tutor her. She didn't enjoy the zither, so I put it away and never forced her again. I thought, even if I wasn't the best mother, I had at least given my all. But the concubine, Su Wanan, who gave birth the same day as me, was nothing like that. After the baby swapping was exposed, she fell out of favor with my husband, and vented all her resentment onto Lian Shengwan, her own daughter. She treated her daughter as a tool to win back favor. Since Shengwan was little, Su Wanan would often make her catch cold, get diarrhea, vomit, all to have an excuse for my husband to visit her quarters. When Shengwan grew older, Su Wanan wouldn't let her eat dinner. Even for the other 2 meals, she was only given vegetables, never rice, just to keep her figure slim. While Jiqing enjoyed the meals I cooked myself, Shengwan always looked over with longing. But when I offered her food, she shook her head in fear and whispered. Concubine said I mustn't eat. More than once, I saw Shengwan so hungry she drooled at the sight of the carp in the pond. Pitiful, truly. Compared to that, Jiqing's life was like that of a fairy. After Su Wanan lost favor, all her hopes rested on her daughter regaining her status. She dreamed her daughter would marry into a powerful family, so she could rely on her in old age. Su Wanan researched all sorts of ways to please men, forcing Shengwan to be delicate, walk seductively, learn alluring songs, and the most bewitching dances. Every frown and smile had to be filled with coquetry. But Jiqing, under my teaching, grew up dignified and poised, her bearing radiant as jade. The noble families of the capital admired her for her grace and poise, qualities of a principal wife, and constantly sought her hand in marriage. In the end, I chose for Jiqing the eldest son of the Grand Chancellor, the Minister of Justice, Qi Sheng. Qi Sheng was handsome, talented in both civil and military affairs, refined as jade, elegant as an orchid. Most importantly, the Qi family had strict rules. A principal wife could only have concubines after 5 years without children. If she had legitimate sons and daughters, no concubines were allowed until the age of 40. I hoped she and her husband could respect each other, never needing to worry about the dirty politics of the inner court. Yet Jiqing kept silent, delaying for half a month. It wasn't until Shengwan, forced by Su Wanan to attend a banquet, unexpectedly caught the eye of the crown prince and became his secondary consort, that everything changed. Jiqing, usually calm and steady, suddenly went mad and pushed me, who couldn't swim, into the lake. At that moment, she was like someone possessed, screaming words of resentment. I've endured so much suffering, but I still can't compare to my younger sister. To live as she does would be so much better. You taught me to understand right and wrong, justice and duty, but you never taught me how to win the heart of the man I love, never taught me how to enter a powerful family and gain status. No matter how good Qishang is, how could he possibly compare to the crown prince of the Eastern Palace? I hate you. If only the concubine were my real mother. As I struggled in the water, she glared at me with red eyes, venting all the hatred in her heart. You never knew how to win favor, couldn't keep your husband, and couldn't secure a future for your own daughter. Everyone in the capital knows Qishang is a handsome devil, cold as ice. You forced me to be like you, to live alone and lonely my whole life. I truly never imagined she thought this way. My earnest teachings were seen as oppression, my careful plans regarded as harming her. Lake water rushed into my ears and nose, pain exploding in every organ. Jiqing still wouldn't stop blaming me. It was then that Lian Xiangwan saw me fall into the water. Without hesitation, she jumped in to save me. Madam, grab my hand. I reached for her hand, tried desperately, but still couldn't grasp it. Slowly, I sank, my consciousness fading. Much later, someone tiptoed in, creeping closer. I kept my eyes shut. Even before death, I could still hear Lian Jiqing's angry screams echoing in my mind, and the pain of water filling my nose, throat, and lungs burned through me. I quietly turned my face away, pretending not to know a thing. That person, perhaps guilty, breathed hurriedly. It took a long while to swap the newborns. The sounds rustled and then faded. I stayed motionless for a long time, but tears welled up at the corners of my eyes, a single drop slid down, silent. This life, since you wanted a mother like that, then I will let you have your wish. That night, after the servants finished bathing the child, Su Wanan came to my quarters. Behind her, the wet nurse carried my own daughter who had been swapped earlier that day. I glanced at the baby in swaddling clothes once, then looked away. Su Wanan, on the other hand, stared intently at the child in Qiu Yin's arms, unable to look away. Noticing my gaze, she hurriedly rubbed her hands together and sat down, her eyes darting, searching for something clever to say. Qiu Yin asked, puzzled. The weather's turned cold and foggy with autumn here. Why did you bring second miss outside into the wind like that, concubine? I knew she only wanted to see her real daughter. Su Wanan waved her hand and said. Second miss. She's nothing but a lowly maid's child. She's not like first miss, who is precious and can't tolerate a bit of cold. This little maid should get used to the cold, it'll do her good. Even though I had resolved to let her swap the children, when I heard her call my own flesh and blood a lowly maid's child, my heart still clenched and my eyes stung with tears. I clenched my fist, reminding myself not to interfere anymore. From now on, there was nothing between me and Lian Jiqing. Late at night, Su Wanan finally left. Qiu Yin, watching her go, rolled her eyes, brought Lian Xiangwan to me, and said. Madam, first miss woke up without crying or fussing. She's truly obedient. But this tiny mole behind her ear, why does it feel a little different to me? She joked. Could it be someone swapped our little miss? Words spoken without meaning, but the listener took them to heart. Su Wanan, already at the threshold, heard this and trembled all over. Her foot, just stepping out, pulled back, and she froze at the door. I said nothing, just looked at her, watching as her body began to shake. Only after a long moment, as she was about to collapse, did I finally smile and say. You're mistaken. This is indeed my daughter. I glanced over and saw Su Wanan finally step out, staggering, forcing herself to stand before hurrying away. Qiu Yin, seeing my mood had soured, had tried to make me smile. Now, seeing me finally smile, she breathed a sigh of relief. That's right. First miss is so well behaved, she really takes after you, madam. Lian Xiangwan was utterly different from Lian Jiqing as a child. She almost never cried, always wide-eyed, quietly observing the world. Now that I'd come back to life, I no longer planned to spend my days fussing over a false daughter. Instead, I devoted more time to myself. I read miscellaneous books, learned embroidery, shaped clay figures, sorted my dowry, opened new shops. I even took out my favorite book from my youth, The Record of Redressed Wrongs. Day by day, Lian Xiangwan grew. I no longer felt myself withering away as before. On the contrary, my spirits lifted, as if I had truly been reborn. She was remarkably obedient. Even if I wasn't her real mother, I never treated her poorly. I taught her just as I had in my past life, everything I knew. Music, chess, painting, poetry, mathematics, bookkeeping, etiquette, dance. I wanted to see what she excelled at, but to my surprise, she showed talent in every area. The math tutor was strict, demanding she keep up with the boys. The female etiquette tutor, a former palace wet nurse, was harsh, often striking her palms with a stick. I told her, if it's too painful or too difficult, you don't have to learn these things. In my previous life, Lian Jiqing also thought etiquette lessons were dull, playing the zither hurt her hands, and learning chess strained her mind. I had always indulged her. If she disliked something, I never forced her to learn it. I never hoped to raise a prodigy. I only wanted her to study what she liked, to know right from wrong, and to keep a kind heart. But unexpectedly, Lian Xiangwan, gripping her sore hand, her eyes shining with unshed tears, bravely insisted. Mother, I can do it. She excelled in ways Lian Jiqing never had. I suddenly remembered, in my past life, no matter how cold the winter or hot the summer, Xiangwan would dance alone by the pond, again and again lifting her feet, spinning. Su Wanan never liked her reading books, so she'd secretly hide behind the rockery to read. I couldn't bear it and would leave a few books there for her. Whenever she met me, she'd lower her head, eyes curving gently, softly whispering her thanks. In this life, even with me as her mother, her spirit was still as resilient as before. On the other hand, when Su Wanan heard about this, she felt a sting in her heart and tried to subtly persuade me. Madam, the eldest miss isn't taking any official examinations for women, why make her work so hard? I deliberately replied. Bitterness endured brings sweetness in the end. Only through hardship can one rise above others. Su Wanan's face revealed a trace of pain. Behind her, Lian Jiqing stepped forward, skillfully trying to please me. Mother, I've learned the song of the weaving maiden you taught me yesterday. Let me sing it for you. Su Wanan immediately raised her hand and slapped her, so hard blood gushed from her nose and she collapsed to the ground. You lowly girl, who allowed you to speak here? The vulgar tricks you learned can never compare to the eldest miss. When beating Lian Jiqing, Su Wanan couldn't hide her smile, sneaking glances at me, as if thinking only she knew about the swapped daughters. For years, Su Wanan took pleasure in insulting and tormenting Lian Jiqing in front of me. Whenever I tried to intervene, she hit even harder. She believed that if she mistreated my child, I'd be heartbroken enough to want to die when the truth came out. Lian Jiqing lay flat on the ground, unable to get up, clutching her face and sobbing. Xiangwan, unable to bear it, went to help her up. But Jiqing shoved her away, voice full of hatred. I don't need your fake kindness. You're only pretending, trying to please my father and show off. You and your mother are both just hypocrites. I could only feel a bitter irony. In both lives, no matter whether she was surrounded by blessings or suffering, she was like a blind person wandering the road, never able to see clearly. Su Wanan was cruel and ruthless. Her treatment of Lian Jiqing was even harsher than how she had once treated Xiangwan. In the bitter cold of winter, she made the toddler stand outside in the snow and wind, wearing only thin clothes, until her cheeks turned red and she caught cold. This was Su Wanan's method for winning back favor. Lian Jiqing was reliving Xiangwan's former life, beaten as a child, growing up lacking food and clothes. At the same age, she was a head shorter than Xiangwan, thin as a stick. Where she'd once had a blossoming figure, now she was flat and frail, all trace of charm lost. Su Wanan didn't allow her to read or study, only made her learn flirtatious songs and seductive dances, twisting her waist, swinging her hips, bending her knees, dances unfit for any banquet. If she was slow to learn, she was scolded and whipped. The slender bamboo switches left no marks, but the pain cut deep. Even so, every day, Lian Jiqing painted her face, walked with a dancer's sway, as if convinced she lived a wonderful life. Meanwhile, Xiangwan's life was genuinely better. This life, I poured my heart into managing my businesses, multiplying my dowry many times over. For every subject she liked, I hired the best tutors. Xiangwan was curious about everything and learned fast. Only dance failed to interest her, which surprised me, since in my past life she was famous for her dancing, drawing everyone's attention. I used to think it was her true passion. But Xiangwan said seriously, a stunning dance may amaze everyone, but if I could choose, I'd rather excel in talent and ability. Beauty fades, admirers disappear. Only knowledge will never betray me. Her words echoed my own thoughts. but Lian Jiqing was nothing like that. Now, she was starving herself thin, her body fragile, yet she was proud of her willow-like figure and graceful dancing. I don't know what medicine Su Wanan gave her, but her voice grew softer, more delicate, like a songbird. She was even more cunning than Su Wanan, single-mindedly mastering seductive songs and dances. She always lingered down noble young men, ready to show off her soft, flowing moves and collect compliments. She constantly boasted to Xiangwan about her performances and admirers. But she never realized those men saw her only as a plaything, nothing more than a dancer for their amusement. One day, she fainted from skipping breakfast. Xiangwan, feeling sorry for her, offered a chestnut cake. Unexpectedly, Jiqing lashed out angrily. "You're just jealous of my slim figure and dazzling dance, so you want me to eat this greasy cake to make me fat. Don't think you're something special just because your mother's the principal wife. The whole capital knows I'm the famous one." She lifted her chin, her face full of pride. Xiangwan, though gentle, was never a pushover. She retorted. "I just saw you were about to starve, so I gave you something to eat. If I'd known you were so unreasonable, I'd have given it to a Huang instead." A Huang was a little tabby cat Xiangwan had taken in. The two girls quarreled fiercely, and from that day on, became bitter enemies. When Su Wanan heard about this, Lian Jiqing suffered another round of beatings. Su Wanan even came over to apologize, looking at Xiangwan with feigned concern. That ignorant maid's daughter was out of line and offended the eldest miss. "Eldest miss, please don't hold it against her." Xiangwan, puzzled, asked me. "Mother, why does Su Wanan treat Lian Jiqing like that? Jiqing is her real daughter." Before I could think of a reply, she had already thrown herself into my arms. "Mother is still the best." A gentle warmth filled my heart. I thought, at first I hadn't liked her all that much, only felt grateful she'd saved me, and hoped that this life she might live better. But as the days passed, I truly came to see her as my own daughter. Seasons passed, autumn fading into winter, time circling on. Both daughters of the Lian family were now grown. At the autumn mountain gathering, Lian Jiqing styled her hair high, dressed in bright red gauze that floated lightly, making her stand out in the crowd. She was adept at winning favor with praise, and was now close with several noble young ladies. Xiangwan, on the other hand, disliked crowds. She was proper in manners, never at fault, but had no fondness for the sons and daughters of the capital's elite. As soon as she arrived, she slipped away with Guomuqing, the daughter of the capital prefect. I chatted for a while with some familiar ladies, admiring pots of rare chrysanthemums. When I turned back, I saw Xiangwan surrounded by a crowd and grew anxious, hurrying over. It turned out that the coral jade bracelet pinned at the hem of County Princess Hualong's skirt had gone missing. Everyone immediately suspected Xiangwan of stealing it. Meng Yanle, third miss of the family of the assistant grand counselor, was the first to make trouble. Just now, under the locust tree, only Lian Xiangwan was sitting there. "If you didn't take it, did the bracelet grow legs and run away?" That coral jade bracelet was not especially rare, but it was the token given by the Grand Preceptor's son, County Princess Hualong's fiancé. The princess, still young and eager to show off, had flaunted it for barely half an hour before it vanished. Before Xiangwan could defend herself, Lian Jiqing curled her lips and mocked. "Elder sister, even if your mother came from humble origins and has nothing good to give you, it's not so bad you'd have to steal from others, is it?" County Princess Hualing hurried to speak up. "Xiangwan, the bracelet isn't worth much, but it means a lot to me. Just give it back, please." She spoke as she removed the gold hairpin from her head, her eyes brimming with tears. "You don't have any precious jewelry, do you? Take this instead, the hairpin's worth even more than the bracelet." Xiangwan was trapped in the center of the crowd, her eyes shining cold and clear with anger, like a moon reflected in water. Though she rarely showed irritation, she remained calm, her voice steady. "I'll say it again, I truly did not take it." Guomuqing, who was close to Xiangwan, also spoke firmly. "Xiangwan has never lied. If she says she didn't take it, then she didn't." Lian Jiqing's gaze flashed with ridicule. She said coolly, "Of course you'd stand up for her, you're close friends. Why not just advise her to hand it over? I'll beg father to forgive her." Meng Yanle sneered. "I heard your mother was only the daughter of a 7th-rank county magistrate, lucky to marry your father and now out of favor. What, did she tell you to take advantage of this busy day to steal some jewelry for your dowry?" Her words dripped with malice. Even after 2 lives, I couldn't help but frown. Xiangwan's hand at her side had curled into a fist, anger plain on her face. County Princess Hualing, anxious, said hastily. Lian Xiangwan, your mother isn't favored. I can understand why you might not want others to be happy. I won't show off in front of you anymore, just please return the bracelet. She was so agitated she nearly fell, only for Meng Yanla to catch her arm. A glint flashed in Xiangwan's eyes, her voice clear. I know where the bracelet is. Lian Jiqing sneered. And you still claim you didn't take it? If you'd just admitted it earlier, we wouldn't have had to argue so much. Disgust flickered in Xiangwan's gaze as she pointed at Meng Yanla. I really didn't take it, but now I know who did. It was Meng Yanla. At those words, Meng Yanla froze in place. Xiangwan explained calmly. The coral bracelet was dyed. When County Princess applied perfume earlier, some dye came off. Meng Yanla, your left hand has a red stain on it. The princess, wiping her tears, immediately grabbed Meng Yanla's left hand. Sure enough, there was a faint red mark. Meng Yanla shook her head over and over, panicking. I don't know why there's red on my hand, impossible. I clearly held it in my right hand. Realizing her slip, she clapped a hand over her mouth, trembling. County Princess Hualing, furious, shoved her hard. You're my cousin, yet you stole my bracelet and tried to frame someone else. Meng Yanla's face turned as pale as paper, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. After a long while, she bit her lip, forcing out a bitter smile. So what? You knew all along that I admired Lin Zhao, yet you stole my engagement, flaunting every day how devoted your fiancé is. I hate you to my bones. I deliberately threw away your token of love just to see what you'd have left to brag about. County Princess Hualing and Meng Yanla argued endlessly over this, and the autumn gathering was forced to end early. I took Xiangwan and Lian Jiqing, her face still full of resentment, home. Behind a tall pine tree halfway up the mountain, 2 figures stepped out, the third prince and deputy minister of justice, Qi Shang. The third prince clapped, his eyes full of admiration. What a clever young lady. Qi Shang remained silent for a long time, his gaze fixed on our group as we made our way down the mountain. Neither I nor Xiangwan noticed any of this as we carefully descended the path. When my husband heard what had happened, he became furious. Lately, with the court in turmoil and his work piling up, he rarely involved himself in disciplining the children. But this time anger flashed in his eyes as he looked at Lian Jiqing. You may not share the same mother, but you are still sisters. How could you, without clear evidence, accuse your elder sister? Lian Jiqing, unconvinced, could only mumble in protest. But the evidence was so clear, I just. Su Wanan rushed over, kicking Lian Jiqing hard and shrieking. If your father says you're wrong, then you're wrong. Admit your mistake and take your punishment. How dare you talk back? Lian Jiqing staggered from the blow, her hairpin falling to the ground, tears streaming down her cheeks. She knelt, her voice trembling. Father, I was wrong. Only then did Su Wanan soften her tone. Husband, please don't be angry, it's all my fault for not teaching her properly. This time I will make sure she learns her lesson. She dabbed at her eyes, her voice full of sorrow. Jiqing has always suffered with me, a mere concubine, so it's only natural her upbringing can't compare to Xiangwan's. I just hope Madam won't hold it against the children. But this time, she's offended the third miss of the family of the assistant grand counselor and embarrassed her in front of everyone. She bit her lip, seemingly offhandedly adding. Isn't that just courting the displeasure of the assistant grand counselor himself? My husband's expression changed, alarm flickering in his eyes. The grand chancellor is old, nearly retired, and the assistant grand counselor is about to take his place. The more I think of it, the more worried I get. He turned to Xiangwan and shouted angrily. Wretch! You just had to make trouble today, and now you've embarrassed Miss Meng. Don't you know I work under the assistant grand counselor? Xiangwan pressed her lips together and replied. Father, I did nothing wrong. I only told the truth. My husband's face went cold. He swept the teacup off the table, smashing it, his gaze on Xiangwan icy and piercing. Kneel. Xiangwan's eyes shimmered with tears, but she stood her ground, refusing to say a word. Seeing things get more and more out of hand, I stepped forward. Today it's clear Xiangwan was wrongly accused. If she hadn't been clever, someone else would have framed her. How is she at fault? My husband glared at me for a long moment, then snapped. No wonder Shangwan doesn't know how to behave, it's because you can't teach her. Since that's the case, you two can share the punishment. Su Wanan immediately stepped in, trying to smooth things over. Husband, the eldest miss only spoke the truth. I think the real blame lies with Madam's teaching, so there's no need to punish the children. Besides, it was clearly Jiqing who was at fault, let her take the punishment for her sister. My husband waved her off, voice frosty. It's clear that mother and daughter only ever think of themselves. The two of you will have your allowances cut for 3 months and be confined for 1 month. Reflect on your actions. Lian Jiqing had clearly slandered Shangwan. But thanks to my husband's bias, Shangwan and I were the ones punished. Maybe I'd been disappointed too many times, at this point, my heart felt nothing at all. Shangwan, on the other hand, clenched her teeth, her hand gripping mine, still trembling slightly. As for Su Wanan, her situation was the complete opposite, she was more favored than ever. Even the servants knew their master ignored his wife and doted on his concubine. Many of them acted according to her moods. The best bird's nest in the kitchen was always served to Su Wanan, while I got only the inferior kind. If I wanted apples, the steward brought me only average ones, while the biggest, freshest fruit always went to Su Wanan. There were countless little slights like that. One day, when they brought me stale tea again, Shangwan was so angry she cried. She sobbed, her small face full of regret. It's all my fault, I made father upset with you. I threw the cup in the trash and waved her off. Even without you, I was never your father's favorite. Everyone in the capital knew I, Ta Yaling, had only married Lian Yendu by luck. I was just the daughter of a 7th-rank magistrate. Lian Yendu, on the other hand, was the legitimate son of the late Grand Chancellor, once famed as the top scholar in the land. Now, he was a 2nd-rank academician of the inner cabinet. Back then, my father-in-law, the old chancellor, refused to join the power struggles at court, fell victim to a plot, and was demoted and exiled from the capital. They returned to their old hometown in Linzhou, where my father was then the magistrate. It was there that my husband and I, through a certain case, developed feelings for each other and became husband and wife. Later, when he had nothing left, with my father's help, he passed the civil exams and re-entered officialdom, returning to the capital. But in the capital, his former fiancée still lingered, Su Wanan. Even though, when he fell from grace, she'd resolutely left him to marry his old friend. He still brought her back after her period of mourning, taking her into the household. From then on, my days of peace were gone. Su Wanan, relying on their childhood bond, repeatedly sabotaged my relationship with Lian Yendu. He always favored her, and my heart grew cold, again and again. Whatever feelings once existed between us were finally reduced to ashes. I closed my eyes, resolute in my heart. The favor of a man is not worth holding on to. The only thing that matters is living well on my own. Xiaoyin brought over a freshly brewed teapot. Eldest miss, try this. It's Guju Zi Sun, the tea that even the tea sage praised without end. Shangwan's eyes lit up in pleasant surprise. I smiled and said, your mother doesn't waste time fighting for favor, she's too busy opening new shops. Don't worry, no kitchen work could ever earn as much as I do. Only then did Shangwan smile. During the days of confinement, Shangwan often read books with me. She opened up to me, bringing out the record of redressed wrongs I always read, and said, Mother, I want to be a lady detective in the future, like Song Ci overturning unjust cases or Di Gong solving mysteries. I've read so many cases in these books and learned so many observation skills. I want to spot every hidden clue, to uncover the truth from the smallest thread. Her eyes shone bright, her whole body quivering with excitement as she spoke. Looking at her, I saw myself as a young girl. Back then, I grew up around the county yamen, always eager to follow the bailiffs to the scene of a case. I remember nervously asking my father for permission. I want to be the lady detective of Lin County. My father had only smiled broadly. Yiling, your mother truly raised you well, to have such lofty aspirations. Returning from my memories, I faced Xiangwan's eager eyes and gently answered. If you love it, then go ahead and do it. 3 bright spring months passed. In the capital, boys and girls of the same age were now starting to consider marriage prospects. Lian Jiqing also had her own plans. She followed Su Wanan, attending banquets everywhere, showing off her singing and dancing, finally gaining a few advantages for herself. The hairpins she wore became more and more precious, her dresses more and more extravagant. Many young men were drawn to her for her singing and dancing, thinking of proposing marriage. But whenever the principal wives of those families came to ask about her, nothing ever came of it. The only family who came with a proposal was the second son of a sixth-rank official. Suwanan grew impatient and often scolded her. "You, low-born girl, think you're so clever, looking down on this one, refusing that one. Yet you have no real ability, can't attract a truly good match." But Lian Jiqing just tossed her pearl earrings with confidence. "Don't worry, I found somewhere much better to marry into. If you knew whose house I'm about to enter, you'd think me lucky indeed." In the days that followed, she often left early and returned late, increasingly splendidly dressed, her jewelry ever more lavish. Until one day, I saw the carriage that brought her home. It bore the mark of the Eastern Palace, the Crown Prince's household. Only then did I realize, the good match she spoke of was the Eastern Palace itself. It seemed she'd fulfilled her wish from her previous life. But from the Eastern Palace, no one ever formally mentioned a marriage proposal, and I simply pretended not to notice. Meanwhile, Lian Jiqing tried her best to flaunt her new connections to Xiangwan. But luck was against her. Every time, she failed to meet Xiangwan. Since I'd agreed to let her follow her dreams, Xiangwan spent her days either lost in the library or following Guamuqing, the daughter of the capital prefect, to investigate cases. The prefect's wife had died young, so he doted endlessly on his daughter. From a young age, Guamuqing had been exposed to criminal investigations, her temperament perfectly matched to Xiangwan's, and the two grew even closer, sharing the same interests. When the peach blossoms bloomed, on the outskirts of the capital there was a place called Zhongqing Garden. Miles of peach trees bloomed in radiant color, making it an ideal spot for lovers to meet. But lately, a string of murders had occurred there. Rumors spread that a peach blossom spirit was killing people, throwing the city into panic. Hearing that Xiangwan would investigate the case with Guamuqing, I couldn't help but worry. She promised me she would return home before dark. She also mentioned that the official in charge of the case was the newly appointed Deputy Minister of Justice, Qi Shang. In this life, I had never met Qi Shang, but I knew he was always calm and reliable. Only then did I feel at ease, thinking this was nothing more than a bit of fun for Xiangwan and Guamuqing. Who could have guessed that half a month later, they would actually uncover the truth behind the case? The so-called peach blossom spirit was nothing but a rumor to mislead people. The real culprit was a mute gardener. He was upset because visitors would often break off peach branches, ruining the splendid scenery. He deliberately lured couples to a small house made from a type of poisonous vine called gowen. Prolonged exposure caused heart failure. Each couple died in the midst of intimacy, appearing as if their hearts failed from overexcitement, so the physicians never suspected foul play. After the case was solved, Xiangwan and Guamuqing were praised throughout the city. People said the two girls were just as intelligent and talented as any man. Only Lian Jiqing came by to mock them. To think a noble family's young lady would mingle every day with those sweaty bailiffs, how degrading. This time, Xiangwan didn't argue back. She only replied coolly. How could a sparrow ever understand the ambitions of a flamingo? Lian Jiqing's eyes flashed cold. Who's to say who is the flamingo and who's the sparrow? Just wait until I enter the Eastern Palace. Then I'll have you kneel before me and perform the 3 bows and 9 kowtows. She glanced at me, voice full of pride. Ah, I almost forgot, the household matron herself. You'd better watch carefully as I soar straight to glory. I only found it amusing, though I remained calm. Then let me congratulate you in advance, Jiqing. May you become the mistress of the Eastern Palace soon. 3 days later, Qi Shang relayed the emperor's order. As an exception, Xiangwan was permitted to attend the June Palace banquet. In the courtyard, all the maids and matrons were full of praise, their voices so lively that even the magpies in the branches startled and flew away. Xiangwan blushed, but her star-bright eyes sparkled with longing. She said, "When I was young, mother taught me to understand justice, to distinguish right from wrong, good from evil. Back then, I thought it was just the usual advice for girls like me. But now I know I can do so much more. Women, too, can have their own careers." I gently smoothed her hair, my heart filled with joy. At the end of May, Princess Xuanqi, daughter of Prince Hezhong, arrived in the capital. Word was, she had come to discuss marriage with the crown prince. This didn't surprise me, after all, in my previous life, she had become the crown princess. Lian Jiqing, on the other hand, couldn't sit still when she heard the news. She smashed quite a few things in anger. For 2 months, she had grown arrogant. Rumors were already swirling in the capital that the illegitimate daughter of academician Lian had caught the crown prince's eye and had a bright future ahead. At every gathering of young men and women, noble ladies flattered her, making her the center of attention, and her pride only grew. The crown prince's sudden marriage discussions sent her into a panic. The same noble girls who had praised her began to question her. The crown prince never invited you to a single banquet. Were you lying to us all along? Lian Jiqing was so furious she nearly fainted. She tried to go to the Eastern Palace, but wasn't even allowed through the gate. Only 3 days before the palace banquet did word arrive that the crown prince had just returned from Yuzhou. Only then did everyone realize he'd been away since the beginning of March, nowhere near the capital. When the crown prince finally appeared at the city gate, Lian Jiqing's face turned ghostly pale. That night, the truth finally emerged. The man Lian Jiqing had fallen for in the Eastern Palace wasn't the crown prince at all, it was the prince's coachman. This man had once delivered a book to County Princess Hualing on the prince's behalf after a banquet. Blinded by her own ambitions, Lian Jiqing mistook him for the crown prince. She tried to win his favor, while he pretended to be the crown prince to deceive her. Now that the truth was out, the coachman fled the capital. Lian Jiqing was left clinging to her dream of entering the Eastern Palace. When she learned the truth, she fainted in rage. The next day, the entire farce had spread through every noble household, and Lian Jiqing's reputation was in tatters. She locked herself in her room for 2 days, the only sounds coming from inside were the endless smashing of things. Su Wanan, who had always liked to scold her, didn't seem affected at all. If anything, she seemed to be in an especially good mood. The night before the palace banquet, Lian Jiqing knelt before the courtyard of Mai and Shangwan's rooms. The blue stone was still damp from a recent rain, but she didn't hesitate, kneeling down with a face as pale as death. Mother, sister, I know I've done wrong, made you both unhappy. But we are still a family. Please, for the sake of our blood ties, forgive me this once. Shangwan's eyes were full of disdain, but she didn't mock her. She was someone who drew clear lines of love and hate, never one to kick another while they were down. She simply replied, I won't hold it against you. Lian Jiqing closed her eyes, gritted her teeth, and bowed her head to the ground. She used all her strength, the sound of her head hitting the ground was sharp and clear, and her forehead quickly turned purple with bruises. As she kowtowed, she pleaded. Mother, sister, please let me attend the palace banquet with you tomorrow. I promise I won't cause trouble. My prospects have been completely ruined, and everyone is mocking me. If I can attend the banquet, maybe I'll regain a bit of dignity. Please have mercy, mother, sister, concubine can't help me, only you two can. Otherwise, my reputation will be utterly destroyed, and it will be impossible to marry well. Her forehead was smeared with mud, her face streaked with tears. Shangwan looked to me, and I suddenly remembered the letter on my writing desk 2 hours earlier. Su Wanan has sent the package away, now we wait for our chance to act. At the palace banquet, the emperor was in excellent spirits. After hearing the peculiar details of the murder case, he publicly rewarded Shangwan and Guomuqing. As Qi Shang recommended, the emperor allowed both girls to join the Ministry of Justice as clerks. Though female officials were rare these days, there was precedent, and this minor 9th-rank post stirred no waves. All the officials present smiled and offered their congratulations. Shangwan was still a child, after all. No matter how she tried to keep calm, joy flickered at the corners of her eyes and brows, and she couldn't help but give me a sparkling, playful look. But the happiness didn't last long. When the dancers appeared on stage, Shangwan's expression faltered, and she glanced anxiously at me. Among the performers in flowing red dresses, the most striking was a girl in a revealing pink gown. Who else but Lian Jiqing, the very one who had promised not to make trouble. My heart pounded in my chest, terrified she would create a scene at the palace banquet. Fortunately, after years of dance training, her performance, though seductive by style, came across only as slightly more alluring than the others in this ensemble. I watched closely, relieved to see the emperor and empress on the dais showed no surprise. Only then did I let out a long breath, feeling my stiff fingers finally relax. But my relief came too soon. Before half a cup of tea had passed, Lian Jiqing reappeared, now in a green dress, taking the stage again. She lightly spun her long sleeves, her steps graceful, her movements supple as a willow branch. She danced with captivating charm, and as the music swelled, she sang, a soft voice like the gentle speech of a Jiangnan maiden, clear and bright as a mountain stream. her performance was mesmerizing. But what she didn't know was that, moments earlier, the hall had been full of laughter and clinking cups. Now, a heavy silence had fallen. The song she sang, Lotus Song, was the creation of a famed courtesan from Jiangnan, who had disappeared 20 years ago. Older officials who'd once visited Jiangnan would surely recognize that, seated above them in all her dignified grace, the Empress's gaze held a hidden allure, one that matched the legendary courtesan exactly. This was the Empress's deepest secret, one she never wanted revealed. Yet here, at the palace banquet, Lian Jiqing had unwittingly exposed it. That night, the Empress was so furious she coughed up blood. Our entire Lian family was accused and thrown into the imperial prison. The prison was filthy and damp, the walls layered with old and new bloodstains. We were locked away for 3 days, the misery unspeakable. On the third night, there was no meal delivered by the jailer. Instead, from the palace came the sounds of battle, the thick smell of smoke drifting through the window. Lian Jiqing, since entering the cell, had been out of sorts, gloomy and lost. She had dreamed of stunning the whole banquet, never imagining it would earn the emperor's wrath instead. Now, she clung to Su Wanan's leg, her voice trembling as she repeated the same question over and over. "Mother, didn't you say that if I sang that song, I could change my fate?" Su Wanan snorted impatiently. "You just sang poorly and angered the nobles. Besides, our whole family being dragged into this, well, isn't that changing fate after all?" A trace of malice flickered in her eyes as she added coldly. "In the end, all of you will die here tonight. I've already completed my mission, and I'll be taking my child away." Xiangwan could stand it no longer. She shot Lian Jiqing a look and said, "Can't you see? Su Wanan has used you to destroy our entire family." Lian Jiqing was shaken. "You're lying. She's my mother, she'd never harm me." Su Wanan only laughed, and as fireworks exploded outside, she seemed overjoyed. "My task is done. Tonight, you'll all die here, I'll take my daughter and leave. Once I get the 10,000 taels of gold from my patron, my life will finally be carefree," Su Wanan sneered. Hearing this, Lian Jiqing rushed over in delight. "Mother, please take me with you, I don't want to stay in this hellhole any longer." But Su Wanan shoved her away coldly. "Get away from me, you wretched girl. Don't touch me." She reached out to pull Xiangwan to her side instead. "This is my real daughter." Xiangwan's eyes were full of disbelief as she turned to look at me. Su Wanan's face brimmed with triumph, her voice icy. "Ta Yiling, you never saw it coming, did you? The daughter you've raised all these years is really mine. The useless girl I raised is actually your own child." At last, Lian Jiqing understood. In panic, she crawled over and hugged Su Wanan's leg. "Mother, you're mistaken. I'm your daughter." But she was kicked to the ground. "How could someone like you be my child? You're just a useless pawn I raised, a grand gift I prepared for Ta Yiling." Xiangwan started to panic too, her eyes glistening with tears. "I don't believe it," she whispered, clinging tightly to my waist. "This is my mother." Just then, from the cell next door, my husband finally spoke. "Su Wanan, what makes you so sure you can leave here?" Su Wanan laughed, as if hearing the funniest thing. "Lian Yendu, you really are easy to fool. I tricked you once, so I can trick you again." "How ridiculous, you let me fool you again and again, even favoring your concubine over your wife for my sake. Let me tell you the truth, I've already handed the palace's blueprints from your study to my patron. When their grand plan succeeds, I'll have made great merit." As she spoke, someone arrived outside the cell and unlocked the prison door. Su Wanan rushed forward, trying to pull Xiangwan away. "Good girl, come with mother. Let's go." But Xiangwan shrank away, dodging her grasp. Su Wanan tried again, but the guard beside her laughed. "She can leave, but you cannot." Su Wanan froze in shock. My husband's voice was stern and cold. "What makes you think you fooled us, and not the other way around? You helped the Empress and the Imperial uncle, but I wanted revenge on them. Years ago, the Imperial uncle caused my father's death. Ha Yong investigated, but the evidence was suppressed and nothing came of it. Isn't it strange that after I returned to the capital, his crimes were exposed, leading to his ruin, and that you, conveniently, ended up in the Lian household?" His voice was weary, weathered by the years. "Everything you leaked to the outside world was exactly what I wanted you to leak. Tonight's coup at the Eastern Palace, the palace blueprints you handed over were fake, and the swords the crown prince brought back from Yuzhou are brittle, cheap fakes. Your so-called patron is doomed to fail. Su Wanan looked as if she'd been struck by lightning, her whole body trembling, speechless. After a long while, her gaze slowly shifted to me. I held Xiangwan's hand tightly and said calmly, Su Wanan, the day you swapped the babies, I was awake. While you weren't watching, I swapped them back. All these years, the child you abused and deliberately made useless was your own. Su Wanan's eyes widened, her face twisting as she let out a piercing, anguished scream. You've all deceived me. Ta Yiling, Lian Yendu, you will never die a peaceful death. Behind her, Lian Jiqing's empty expression suddenly sharpened. She drew her hairpin and stabbed it deep into Su Wanan's throat. It wasn't until Su Wanan's blood splattered across her own face that Jiqing collapsed and fainted. The coup at the Empress and Crown Prince's palace failed. The Crown Prince took his own life by swallowing a sword, the Empress was forced to hang herself, the entire family of the imperial uncle was executed. On the day of the executions, my husband and I watched together. He gazed at the scaffold with tears in his eyes and said, At last, my father's spirit can rest in peace. As we walked home hand in hand, his voice was tinged with regret. Yiling, these years, you've suffered so much. The year after our marriage, my father-in-law was reinstated. But less than 3 months after returning to the capital, he suddenly passed away. Because of that, my husband took the civil exams, and brought our family to take office in the capital. Not long after our return, my husband's former fiancée, who had once betrayed him, Su Wanan, came to our door. Her own husband, Ha Yong, had been my husband's old friend, and after marrying his brother's former betrothed, he was always uneasy. While investigating the suspicious death of my father-in-law, Ha Yong was unfortunately exposed and lost his life. And so, we took in the widow, Su Wanan. Less than half a month after entering our household, seeing my husband's rising favor, Su Wanan secretly drugged him and forced him to marry her. She became a concubine, giving birth to Lian Jiqing. But even Su Wanan herself didn't know, the child in her belly wasn't my husband's, but Ha Yong's, who had already died. Before he passed, Ha Yong had entrusted the child to us. When I took Su Wanan's pulse and realized she was pregnant, I pitied her and allowed her to stay. Later, when she developed malicious intentions, my husband was prepared to drive her out. But when he unexpectedly discovered her other identity, we had no choice but to play along, scheming in secret. To draw out the mastermind behind her and avenge my father-in-law's death, my husband and I put on an act for many years. Yet through everything, we always understood each other and never changed. My husband's voice was heavy. For all these years, I've truly wronged you. I gripped his hand tightly, all the pain of the past faded like clouds. Lian Jiqing remained in a coma for many days. When she finally woke, she had forgotten everything, becoming as innocent as a child. The doctor said her mind had suffered too much and might never recover. I brought her to an estate on the outskirts of the capital. I told no one the truth. In the end, she was my own flesh and blood, but I no longer wished to reclaim her. Meanwhile, Xiangwan and Qi Shang solved several major cases together. They worked perfectly as a team. Sometimes, when they returned late, it was always Qi Shang and his colleagues who escorted Xiangwan home. When the Qi family came to propose marriage, I felt it was fate. In my previous life, the son-in-law I had chosen now became my son-in-law in this life, just by a different path. Qi Shang was outwardly reserved, but inwardly warm and of excellent character. More importantly, the Qi family rules were strict and the inner residence clean. Qi Shang swore to Xiangwan that he would be as devoted as his own father, a lifetime of loyalty and love. My husband looked at the young couple and said, with a hint of nostalgia, "Wife, don't Xiangwan and Qi Shang remind you of us when we were young?" In his eyes, I seemed to see us from years ago, working together to solve the Lantern Festival case. But youth can never return. My husband's voice was tinged with sadness and regret. If not for the need to avenge my father, I could have spent every day solving cases by your side. I held up my book and smiled lightly. This lady detective, let Xiangwan take my place. Lately I've been reading business texts, and since my new shop needs funding, why not give me all your official salary so I can become the top businesswoman in the capital? He laughed heartily. If that's what you want, wife, I'll give you everything I have. The night before Xiangwan's wedding, she insisted on sleeping with me. We hadn't shared a room since she was 2. I thought it would feel strange, but instead it was so natural, so close. Perhaps after all these years, we truly were mother and daughter in every way. Outside, the wind sighed and snow piled thick on the black-tiled eaves. Xiangwan hugged my arm and whispered. I visited my little sister, she still hasn't recovered. But I think she seems much happier than before. I was quiet for a moment, then replied. That's good, then. Xiangwan paused, then murmured. Mother, I'm really the daughter of Suwanan, aren't I? I've looked closely, there really are few similarities between us. She gripped the edge of the quilt, her voice choked. A few days ago, I had a dream. In the dream, it was me being beaten by Suwanan, me who went hungry. In the dream, you secretly gave me food, hid books for me. I gently stroked her forehead, smiling. So in your heart, who is your mother? Of course, it's you. And in my heart, my daughter has always been you. That's all that matters. The end.